What's up, anglers? Today we are going to do a fly tying tutorial about feathers. Three types to be precise. We're going to do ostrich herl, we're going to do turkey, and then we're going to do peacock as well. We're going to talk about how to pick them, what to look for, what they can be used for, what fly tyers are using, some of the standard uses for some of them, and some of the other more new stuff that's coming out with them, and then of course how to and some of the techniques on how we do it. So let's just kind of get started here. I have my helper here, Miss Zoe. So we're gonna start with peacock because it's very common, and typically it comes in two different forms. For anglers, you have it when it's stripped off and strung together like so. And this is the herl feather, and I'll show you what it comes from here. And then it comes also like that, and like this is the sword part. So the herl, yeah, yeah. So the herl is these feathers right here. And they're used for lots of different things, making bodies, and you can also use them for trailers on your streamers. You can use them for decoration on a lot of stuff. You can also use the eye of the sword for stuff. But when you get them strung together like this, what you're getting is the best picked ones, hopefully, depending on the quality. So what you're looking for is feathers that aren't broken up and broken up along the stems. They have nice uniform feathers across. They don't have a lot of across the whole feather. They don't have tufts and stuff missing out of them. Just a nice clean look to the feather. And you want them to be nice and long. If they're all broken off like some of these ones kind of are, and they all look like that, then you're not getting a very strong feather. So when you look at them in the bag, when they're strung together, don't be afraid to pull them out a little bit and give them a look, because if you bend them over like this and a bunch of them pop out like that and they're all really short, find another bag, right? But you can see here when I pull them all apart like this, there's not lots of nice long feathers that aren't all broken up. Along the stems, they're uniform down them, and they got good color. Okay, so so when you have these, what they're used for typically is making bodies. So a lot of the times you're wrapping these pieces around to get that kind of bushy, buggy look. And it's typically the way we do it when we're tying flies is you would take 3 of these feathers like so and tie them in and then spin them together. So you've got 3 of them. You're going to take them and you would spin them after you've tied them in, and then when you wrap them, it makes it a nice strong band of feathers there, so that they don't break as easy and you get that kind of bushy body look, right? So the other way you can use peacock, and one of my favorite ways to use it, is you get it dyed in all of these awesome colors. Yeah, lots of colors, huh? Yeah. So what these can be used for is the same thing. You're building bodies with them. The great thing about these ones here is that they come in all these different colors, so you can make them, bug specific. So like this one here is the sulfur, I believe. Yep, sulfur orange, for tying like PMDs and things like that. So and again, nice long feathers, good stiff stems on them. They're not all broken up along the fiber here. They're all kind of uniform all the way down. But the other reason I really like these is, instead of using biots to build bodies, which we'll get to later here in just a minute, you can use the peacock feather, this piece, just take one off, and there's a good stiff stem there on the feather, right? And I'm not using the technical terms of what it's actually referred to, but the reason I like to use these is you take an eraser, and usually you would do this right on a piece of paper. It works best. You put the feather down on a piece of paper and you lay it flat. And here, I'll show you what I'm doing. All right, so you're gonna help me. I want you to hold that right there, like that, okay? Don't move it. And what you're doing here is I'm taking the eraser and I'm pushing it up the feather. And what that does is it pulls all the little fuzzy fibers off. See how it strips it there? And what that does is it exposes the quill of the feather. I think that's what it's called. Or the base here. And what that will do is it gives you a nice sheen piece of feather to build a body with. And what you do is tie that in and then wrap it, and it builds a nice little sheen, kind of segmented body look to it. Really good on mayflies and things like that. So that's one of the ways I use those dyed ones. Thank you, kiddo. That's one of the ways I use these dyed ones here, is you strip the fuzzy feathers off, and then you can build bodies that have that nice, clean, segmented look. Hit it with a little bit of that UV dab, and you're good to go. Let's get that out of the way. But again, they come in all sorts of different colors. You know, I've got it for mahoganies. We've got green. You can build caddis bodies, little drakes. Comes in black. The other thing that you can use these feathers for is, again, you can pull the fibers, or take the fibers and tie them in along your streamers to give it some more color, especially if you're doing like bass or like bluegill patterns that kind of have more color to them. You can add these into your streamers along the body, and it gives them a little bit more color and a little bit more action too. They're a little stiff at the base, and then the ends are really wispy, and so in the water they really dance, and they give flies a lot of movement. You'll see them used in steelhead flies a lot, but bass flies, musky flies, that kind of stuff, and your trout streamer patterns. Don't be afraid to, you know, put 2 or 3 of these on each side of it and give it a little color, especially if you're doing like a smolt pattern or something like that. So that's what those are used for. Or that's what I use them for. There's also lots of other uses for them where you're building bodies different ways. You can leave the fuzz fibers on there, and you can get a nice collar wrapped around a nymph in a nice color like that. You know, your standard Prince nymph, that's all the body is made out of with this. Just wrap some wire over it. So that's kind of your peacock overview. When you're buying feathers, just look for nice, clean, uniform feathers that have don't have a lot of missing pieces, and they're all kind of the same length. You have too many short ones, and you don't have really good stems, so they won't tie in. They'll break a lot. And so, like you can see, I'm sitting here and I'm pulling my fingers all down the fiber. If they pull off when I do that, it's probably not a really good feather. You need to find another bag or find some higher quality feathers, because you should be able to run your finger down it and they don't break, and they don't pull off really easy. So there you go. So let's move on to ostrich herl, because it's a little bit quicker, and it again has a lot of the same uses that peacock herl does, except for it's a much more fragile fiber. And again, it comes in a variety of colors: blues, blacks, pinks. I got orange and olive. There's some white over here, but this feather, Let's get one of them out here. Right? Look at that thing. Ooh. It's very fluffy. Yes, that is correct. The technical term is fluffy. So this is a very fluffy feather, and again, used for building bodies, but with these more wispy and fluffier feathers, they give the body a lot more movement. There's a lot more undulation under the water. There's a lot more movement on a smaller level, which is what fish key in on. And so these give you a lot more action, a lot more going on here. There's, you know, really makes a fish want to eat. Okay, but you know, scud bodies, things that have more of like a crustacean-y feel, these are really good for when you're dealing with like trout flies. They're really good, again, the same way we were using the peacock curl down the bodies of flies. So you would take 3 or so and put them down the body of your streamer. Gives you a lot of action, has a lot of little micro movements going on down there. Again, you can do the technique where you would tie 3 in and spin them like so, and then wrap it to make a collar or a full body on a fly. And again, it gives you that, it's just more fuzzy, right? It's fuzzier, huh? Much fuzzier feather. But the same uses. The one thing that you can't do with this one, though, is strip the small fuzzy feathers off and use it to build a body. It's a little bit weaker fiber. Doesn't have the same profile either. They're really tiny, so they don't build a body. But when you would strip all those fuzzy feathers off, so they won't give you that segmented look that the peacock curl, when it's stripped, is what it does. So that is ostrich curl. Lots of uses for, I mean, bass flies, pike, muskie, all that stuff. Lots of movement, lots of action. Also good for building bodies that you want to have a little bit more movement. Really good for wet flies, things like that, where you need a lot of movement on your fly. And then finally, we're going to do turkey biots and turkey feathers. So, yes?
I can't really sit.
Yeah, I know you can't because your chair's too small.
I don't have an
I know. So, here we go. We've got a plethora of turkey here, plus we have a whole bag of stripped turkey biots. So, yeah, we'll get that out in a minute. So, here's what we got. So, here's like your wild turkey here. And turkey has, turkey has several uses, right? Yeah. It's used to build wings, casings, legs, bodies, a lot of uses out of turkey. The nice thing about these, the wild turkey feathers here, the big ones here, is they're sticky. So they stick together. So they're really good for like marred wings and things like that. A lot of the times when you have flies that have like a marred wing, or like a no hackle winged fly, this is the feather that they will use, because you can tie it in. You pull off a section like so, and then you would pinch it. Let me get a pair of scissors here. So you would cut off a section, and then you could actually stick it to other colored feathers to build a nice marred wing if you wanted to. But what you would do to just make a short one on like a tent wing caddis pattern or something like that. You're making silly faces. Everybody's going to be paying attention to you and telling them instead of what I'm talking about. You would pinch it and then tie it in, and when you tie it in, it'll pop the wing up a little bit and give it that kind of natural swept back look that it comes on that is on the mayfly wings especially. It's also good for tent wing caddis, things like that. Again, and it comes in lots of different colors. It's dyed all sorts of colors and things like that. Again, here you've got the mottled kind, and they're sticky. They stick together, so you can build wings. You can build casings for the back of like old school Kaufman stones and stuff like that. And then, of course, you have your standard turkey. So turkey and goose are used for similar things. Goose bites are a little bit smaller and a little bit tougher, and turkey bites are longer and good for bigger flies. So on this turkey quill here, these are the longer biots here for building like segmented bodies wrapped around. Like this is a good PMD color. So you would take one of these biots, right? Ooh. And tie it in tip first at the back of your mayfly pattern, and then wet it, and then wrap it over your hook forward to make that segmented look. And then this side here, these are good for legs, and also building up bigger bodied flies, or doing like the back of wing casings for flies. A little bit longer than your standard goose biot. Better with the sound effects. And then we'll just go straight into goose biots. They usually come in stripped like this. And again, they come in lots of different colors. Cool thing about these is they typically just pick out the most select, nicest ones after they've been stripped off of a goose feather that looks like this. This is a turkey feather. They strip this inside part down and off, and then that's what you get. And these are a sharper, smaller, a more compact feather. Really good, again, for building bodies. You would pull one of these off, wrap it forward just like you would the turkey quill or the turkey biot. But you would you can also use these for your wing casings and the backs of like your prince nymphs and your tails of your nymphs, right? Also, you can tie them in knots and make some really cool looking legs. Tie that feather, take one of those feathers off, tie it in a knot, and make some cool things that way. And then you can also use them for like antennas, tails, or if you're building up like one of my stonefly patterns I use, you build it up with legs on the side. And you do two legs, just like you would your rubber legs, but you do it with your biots here, and it makes a really sharp angled leg that when it beats in the water, it kind of has a more forceful undulation. Whoa! More forceful undulation that kind of looks like the stonefly as it swims, because they kind of swim like this and they beat their legs. So just gives you a different kind of action because it's a more sturdy feather. So there's the different types of here's 3 different types of feathers that we use. Turkey and goose biots and quills, ostrich herl, and then again peacock herl. Woo. So hopefully that helps. When you're selecting feathers, just look for nice, clean feathers that are uniform all the way across, and when you pull and tug on them, they don't break apart in your hands. If they do, just look for another bag, and if you can't find any good ones, then look somewhere else. But let me know what you think. Questions, comments. I'll have some more videos come up this week about the other different types of feathers. We'll do marabous. We're gonna do different types of wing materials for mayflies. See, she's bored now. And like mallard and things like that, and teal and things. We'll start going over a lot of these materials, because a lot of the requests that I'm getting from people and who I'm talking to are for the kinds of stuff you use the feathers for, and how to pick them, and what to look for, and how they're used and why they're used. So we'll start getting into that a little bit more here. And then we're going to start tying some patterns with this stuff to kind of show you how and why. And we're going to get the tank set up so I can show you how they move in the water as well. So all that and more coming your way this off season while I get ready for guiding next year and prepping for new waters, new fish, and new stuff. So until next time, anglers.